Tanse, I'm Chris Nachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Liberal leader Mark Carney was in Winnipeg on Tuesday. In between talks of tariffs and affordability, he was questioned about his commitments to Indigenous peoples this election. APTN's Sierra Bettens has more.
10 of the 2025 campaign, Liberal leader Mark Carney made a stop in Winnipeg, home to the largest urban Indigenous population in the country. However, his itinerary did not include a policy announcement for Indigenous peoples or public meetings with them. While taking questions, Carney was asked what that signaled about his party's stance on reconciliation.
On the day that I was sworn in, acknowledged the fundamental role of First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples to the founding of our country. Within 2.5 days, I was in Iqaluit with the Premier and meeting First Nations. The Inuit people and the Métis. Within the first week, I met with all the leaders of the Indigenous organizations. Within the first week, we announced as a government the doubling and the broadening of the Indigenous loan program.
Carney has spoken extensively about speeding up mineral extraction and energy projects during his campaign. APTN asked how he plans to affirm First Nations' right to consultation and accommodation.
And when I speak of projects of national interest, when I speak of, for example, critical mineral extraction, which is a tremendous opportunity for this country, but can only proceed if there is free, prior, and informed consent. Only proceed, in my judgment, if there's full participation from First Nations groups.
APTN has requested an interview with Carney on multiple occasions throughout his Liberal leadership and 2025 federal election campaign. He has never been made available. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We now want to tell you about this week's second web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, will you be more likely to vote in the federal election if you lived in a swing riding? Your answers are yes, no, or unsure. Have your say by going to our website at aptnnews.ca/polls. The chief of the Liard First Nation in southern Yukon is being criticized by several members of his council. Last year, the same members of council said they lost confidence in his leadership. Now they have a new set of allegations against him. Here's APTN's Sarah Connors with the latest.
Liard First Nation council members are accusing Chief Stephen Charlie of attempting to use band resources to pay for a lawyer for his brother-in-law. The allegations about Charlie stem from a band council resolution shared on social media by 5 other members of council. In February, Councillor Susan Megan's partner, Perry Wolftail, was ticketed for wasting meat under the territory's Wildlife Act. Liard's deputy chief told APTN News Megan is Chief Charlie's sister. The resolution states Charlie, Megan, and Councillor Ed Broadhagen held a meeting on March 17th where they approved retaining legal counsel for Wolftail's charge. It also authorized Charlie and Wolftail to instruct the law firm regarding the defense of the charge. But the First Nations Deputy Chief Harlan Schilling believes that's a conflict of interest and an inappropriate use of band resources. Schilling says the rest of council was not informed of the meeting, nor was proper quorum reached, and that Charlie ultimately dropped the resolution after receiving pushback from council.
Stephen tried to tell us that, this was done transparently with all of council, and it's just like blatantly, we had to say, no, this was not.
APTN National News reached out to Charlie, but he declined to comment. This isn't the first time he's come under fire. Last fall, the same members of his council said they had lost confidence in Charlie's leadership, accusing him of workplace bullying, ethical violations, and several other allegations. In December, over 100 band members attended a community vote to remove Charlie from his position, but so far, those efforts haven't been successful. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
As the Indigenous community in Winnipeg continues to process the news of a search of a second landfill, leaders are starting to work together to expand that search to include another First Nations woman that is believed to have ended up there over a decade ago. With more, here's APTN's TR Wheatley and a warning. Some of these details here may be upsetting to hear.
The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs are making a public plea to include Tanya Nepinak in the humanitarian search of a city-owned landfill just 6 days after a second search site was announced to look for one of 4 First Nations women brutally murdered by a serial killer in spring 2022. Winnipeg Police, the province, First Nations leaders, and MMIWG families came together on March 26 to say Muscadet Bejike Ikwe was identified as Ashley Shingus, and a search of the Brady landfill south of Winnipeg would happen soon to try recover her remains.
The update that we're here to provide will undoubtedly trigger strong emotions.
Emotions all too familiar for another family that attended and left early as they were reminded of their missing loved one believed to have been killed by another serial killer over 13 years ago. It's believed that Tanya Nepinak also ended up in the Brady landfill. On what would have been Tanya's 45th birthday, her family and advocates took to the streets with renewed calls to search for her.
Consider the landfills as a crime scene and stop putting trash on our loved ones.
She was 31 years old when she was last seen on September 13th, 2011. In June 2012, Sean Lamb was charged with second-degree murder for Tanya, but those charges were later stayed. He went to prison for killing 2 other Indigenous women. Derek Nepinak is the chief of Minnegojabi Anishinaabe and a relative of Tanya. He was also AMC Grand Chief back when she went missing. He said in the fall of 2012, WPS searched the landfill for roughly a week.
But determined very quickly that it was beyond the scale and the magnitude that they could do at the time. We had difficulty accepting that. I have been quietly speaking with other leadership, saying, you cannot proceed with a search of any of the landfills without including Tanya Nepinak. I know her children need this to happen. I know her former partner, Vernon, needs this to happen.
Answering questions from reporters last week, AMC Grand Chief Kyra Wilson said her organization hasn't forgotten about Tanya.
Of course, this is a conversation that we do need to have. And what I will say today is, we hear a strong message that we don't leave anybody behind.
Manitoba's premier was also asked about whether or not the search at Brady landfill would include Tanya. He didn't flat out say no. Instead, he asked that the public continue to support the Shingus family as they process the news. There's no expected timeline yet as to when the search at Brady will happen or what it will look like. TR Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
And if you are impacted by these stories, supports are always available 24/7 through the MMIWG support line. That number is 1-844-413-6649. A man who lives with a disability and is from the Pasqua First Nation in Saskatchewan was recently assaulted, and his only form of transportation was stolen. That story when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Regina police are investigating after a man from the Pasqua First Nation who lives with a disability was assaulted on Monday morning in Regina, and his only form of transportation was stolen. And a warning, some of the pictures here may be difficult to see. Police say 42-year-old James Pegan was assaulted on Monday morning at around 2:15 a.m. in the 800 block of Elphinstone Street in north central Regina. The family says Pegan was at a friend of a friend's house on Sunday night. When he was leaving the home, a group of people waited outside to beat him up and stole his electric bike. Pegan sustained multiple cuts and bruises to his face and head and needed to get stitches. Pegan lives with a disability. He cannot drive and his bike is his only way to get around his community. The family says Pegan received the electric bike last December at a cost of about $4,000. They hope the bike can be returned, and if not, they will find a way to fundraise another one for him. Yolanda Marasti is Pegan's older sister.
He was really hurt really badly. His face is unrecognizable right now. It's all bloody. He got stitches. I don't know how much stitches he had. He had a CT scan and everything came back good with the CT scan, but he's beat up pretty bad. My brother can't drive due to his disability. He wouldn't be able to read the signs or pass a driver's test in order to get his driver's, so this was his only option. He doesn't have any other options concerning transportation. Just hope that they'll find it in their heart to feel remorseful for what they did to my brother, and that their guilty conscience will get to them, that they'll want to give it back.
And you can read more about that story by going over to our website at aptnnews.ca. Manitoba RCMP have made a number of arrests after they obtained a search warrant to search a home in Penamutang First Nation, located about 240 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg. On Monday, Gypsumville RCMP executed a search warrant at a home on Mallet Road in Penamutang. 5 people, including 3 males and 2 females, were arrested without incident. During the arrest, officers seized numerous firearms, ammunition, drug paraphernalia, and money. Charlton Anderson and Tanya Bruce of Penamutang and Tyler McKinney of Pine Falls have been charged with a number of weapons charges. John McDonald of Leaf Rapids and Danica Latandre of Penamutang were also charged for failing to comply with a release order. The investigation continues. This Thursday will mark 8 years since Happy Charles went missing in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Now her family is demanding the Prince Albert Police Service to do more in finding her. 42-year-old Happy Charles was last seen on April 3, 2017 in Prince Albert. Previous security camera footage captured Charles on campus at the Prince Albert College Institute at around midnight. After years of searches, awareness walks, interviews with the media, and a call for an independent body to help with the search, Charles's family have not given up hope in finding their loved one. The family will gather outside the Prince Albert Police Station Thursday afternoon to show of solidarity and to pressure the police service to put more resources into finding Charles. In a statement, Charles' stepfather Carson Putra says, "We have had broken promises, decreased police activity, and absolutely no investigation done on our case. We had a meeting last year with the Prince Albert Police, and they assured us that our case would have renewed energy and new awareness campaigns implemented. To date, nothing has been done, and there's been very little communication with the police since this. This is unacceptable." APTN News contacted the Prince Albert Police Service regarding the family's concerns. They preferred to make their announcement after the family's gathering on Thursday. Another First Nation in Manitoba has filed a lawsuit against all 3 levels of government. They claim they own the land at the Forks in Winnipeg, a popular green space near the city's downtown. On March 20th, the Kanupa Wakpa Dakota Nation filed a statement of claim. It says they have Aboriginal title to the land and that Canada and the province of Manitoba unjustifiably infringe the plaintiffs' rights to the land, and that the Forks is unceded traditional territory. The Dakota Nation says the Forks is land that was previously used for trade, harvesting, hunting, fishing, and ceremonial purposes since time immemorial. The Dakota and Lakota nations were previously not historically recognized by Canada until only recently, and were previously excluded from the treaties signed between First Nations and Canada. The Dakota Nation is seeking a grant of legal title. They want Canada, Manitoba, the City of Winnipeg, and the Forks Renewal Corporation to share in the profits from the land, and they are seeking unspecified damages and compensation. A statement of defense has yet to be filed, and none of the claims have been proven in court. All levels of government declined to comment as the matter is before the court. Last August, the Dakota Teepee First Nation made a similar claim, but the federal government denied it and called on the court to toss out the lawsuit. Actor and director Daryl Dennis is up next to talk about his new upcoming film, Sweet Summer Powwow. We'll be right back in less than 3 minutes.
Starting on the east, Fredericton -2, Charlottetown -2. Cartwright -6, Nain -7. Quebec City -5, Montreal -2. Ottawa -2, Sault Ste. Marie -2. -3 in Sudbury, Thunder Bay 0. Thompson -5, Norway House -4. -2 in Gimli, Winnipeg 0. -3 in Yorkton, Swift Current -1. -11 in Stony Rapids, Uranium City -13. 0 in Fort McMurray, Fort Chipewyan -4. 2 in Medicine Hat, Lethbridge 2. 10 in Vancouver, Kamloops 12. 5 in Fort Nelson, Smithers 8. Watson Lake 3, Mayo 3. Yellowknife -9, Fort Simpson -2. Paulatuck -7, Colville Lake -8. -15 in Baker Lake, Cambridge Bay -17. In Arctic Bay -23, Iqaluit -20.
Thanks for staying with us. Award-winning First Nations actor, writer, director, and comedian Daryl Dennis is back with a new film. Sweet Summer Powwow follows a young Indigenous couple who get a break from their troubled lives when they find each other through a summer of love on the powwow circuit. The film that stars Tanya Rose Baptiste and Joshua Ojig opens theatrically on April 11th. We recently spoke with director Daryl Dennis from Los Angeles to tell us more about the film. Here's that interview. Director Daryl Dennis, thanks so much for being with us today. Can you tell us a bit about your film, Sweet Summer Powwow?
Yeah, absolutely. So the film is basically, it's in the style of those old, teen romance films that, we used to watch when we were younger. But it's all Indigenous. It takes place on the powwow circuit. This couple, Ginny and Riley, who fall in love. And as so many of us who spent our youth on the powwow circuit know, it's a very intense and deep love. And, you fawn over that person for the entire summer and can't wait to get to the next powwow. And it's sort of based on my experiences as a young man on the powwow circuit, going around, falling in love, and just all the sort of people that you meet and all the misadventures that happen on that. So that's what it is. It's almost like a love letter to my youth, a love letter to the powwow system, and a love letter to just Indigenous people falling in love.
You mentioned it a bit there. The film is written by you and your wife, Katya Gardner. And you said this is a personal film for the two of you. Can you go into a little bit more detail about that?
No, it's actually it's more of a personal film for myself. I do write a number of my projects with my wife Katya Gardner, just because she's an amazing writer, and she's also really good at showing, stepping outside of my, because I get so wrapped up in how something should be, and she's kind of like, okay, well, but that doesn't make any sense, and this, and like, oh yeah, you're right. But on that regard, I mean, it's it is a story about love, so we were able to draw on our own experiences and meeting and those butterflies that we both got, and we were able to draw on those experiences as well. But for the most part, I mean, I just really wanted to do an Indigenous romance, because a lot of times in our movies and our TV series and that sort of stuff, we don't get to see Native people being in love. We don't get to see that sort of pure sort of thing. It's always some sort of trauma involved, or it's violence or that sort of thing. So just to see two young Indigenous people falling in love and showing the turmoil that happens with that, it was really important to me, because it's something we rarely ever get to see in that sort of pure form.
Awesome, great to hear. And your last film, The Great Salish Heist, is known in part for being the first ever Indigenous heist movie. How important is it for you to highlight Indigenous culture and identity in your films?
It's absolutely important for me. I mean, I grew up in the culture. I was raised on a res, so I'm like, that's all part of my storytelling. It's all, I can't write stuff without having that aspect of my thing. But the thing that I like to do with my projects is I'm really trying to get mainstream movies made with the leads that are Indigenous. The Indigenous leads are the heroes of the story. They're not relying on anybody. They're nobody's sidekick. So that's, for my last film and for this film, it really just sort of focuses on, Indigenous people being Indigenous and following their own journeys and making their own choices, as opposed to being victims of some sort of system. So that was really important for my first film, and really important for this movie, and for my next film as well, too.
And Daryl, you've had such a long and storied career in front of and behind the camera, going all the way back to when you were a teenager. Can you talk about how the industry has changed for Indigenous filmmakers and actors and storytellers? Are things better now than they were?
100% they're better now than they were before. I mean, we still have a ways to go, and sometimes there's a lot of like two steps, one step forward, two steps back that happens. But when I first started in this industry, I mean, we didn't have APTN. I was on one of the very first APTN shows that Bingo in a Movie that first aired. But when that happened, like we really didn't have any control over our image, over our movies, over our TV shows. We were sort of like hired people and it was all non-Indigenous people creating these projects. And now it's almost impossible to get a show off the ground if there are not, the majority of Indigenous people involved in that thing. And that has been, just in my career, a huge leap forward, and it's been incredibly beneficial, not only for myself but for all the Indigenous community as well too, and arts makers. So yeah, I'm finding it really exciting. It's an exciting time to be an Indigenous creative right now.
That's so great to hear. And last question, Daryl, can you tell us where the public can see this movie possibly down the road?
Yeah, so Sweet Summer Powwow is currently doing the film festival circuit right now across Canada. There are links you can go to find out where it's playing. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook to get that, but also Orca Cove Media is another great place to find out. So it's currently, it's going to be in the Comox Film Festival on Saturday, April 5th, but also it starts to run in Vancouver at the Vancouver Film Festival site, and that's starting, I believe, April 12th, and that runs for that week. But it's going to go across Canada, so just keep your eyes open, and go see the movie in the theater, because that's important for Indigenous filmmakers to have people go out to the theater and actually see it.
Daryl Dennis, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you so much.
Definitely give Daryl Dennis a follow on Instagram there. I know I will after this. And that's your daytime newscast for this Wednesday, April 2nd. We're back again for your evening newscast in a few hours, and we will sit down with NDP leader Jagmeet Singh regarding the election. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho kwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.